Peace. Brought to you by Iron Phenomenal Unlimited. This is the Speak Your Mind podcast, hosted by the Queen, Shanice Gatewood Ali, and the God, I Be. Speak Your Mind, an open line podcast delves into the week's current events, trending topics, and the social issues that affect Black people in America.
Peace, 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 peace.
Peace.
What's good with you? What's good with you, Queen? Good to see you, even though we live in the same.
Yeah, and you got my banner right behind you.
Oh, man, we represent. We always represent y'all. We all live. I am Phenomenal Unlimited is in the building.
Yes.
So
Well,
my name
peace,
is
King.
God I Be, and this is the Queen, Shanice Gatewood Ali, and this is the Speak Your Mind podcast with the Alis. Today is March 21st. Actually, this is the actual New Year. Like some people celebrate New Year's Day in January, but we celebrate the New Year on the 20th or the 21st because it's actually bringing in the equinox and it's the changing of the seasons. You know, the spring represents life, right? Spring represents when life is coming forth. So it's the beginning of the cycle. You can't have a new year in the dead of the cycle, which is in the winter. It's when the life is starting to come forth. The flowers is blooming. The birds and the bees is buzzing. You understand what I'm saying? This is when the cycle of life starts. So this is our new year. So happy new year to everybody.
Happy New Year. Peace. So I would like to give a quick shout out to my I was about to say spring children, but my sisters, happy belated birthday today. Well, I said it yesterday, but I'm saying it again. Happy birthday. March 20th, they were born. I'm so excited. They're 29. Oh my gosh. Like, what? Where? You know, I thought they was 27. But they're actually 29 years old. Oh my gosh, I just love it. So happy birthday to my twin sisters, Quanisha Gatewood and Venetia Gatewood. Big shout outs to y'all. And I hope y'all enjoying your whole entire weekend. And I love y'all.
This is dope. So today we got a dope discussion. Oh yeah, happy born day to my sisters too. I don't want to skip over that. Let me make sure I say happy born day to y'all, and I hope y'all having a good time wherever y'all so may be. And next year, you know, we gonna turn it up. And you know your big sis born day is coming up, so we gotta do something big. So you know, hit me up and let me know what y'all want to do. Word. So anyway, let me get my microphone.
Yes, you
Probably
sound
sound
so
like a
far.
away.
Yeah, you were. It sound like
Okay.
it.
So listen, today we're going to be talking about a topic that many people may find I don't want to say taboo, but you know, it's been stigmatized within our community. People who have been through the process of incarceration. I know that, you know, Michelle Alexander came out with a book not too long ago called The New Jim Crow, and it became kind of vogue to speak about these issues. But the current issue that we're going to be talking about today is post-traumatic prison disorder. So we got some great panelists and we got some great stuff to talk about this issue because one of the people that's on our panel has actually drafted a bill and has presented it to the New York State Senate. And I believe it's another state that she also presented it to. But we're gonna get into that. I'm gonna let her, you know, divulge that information. But before we do that, let's just introduce our guests so you know the beautiful panelists that we have here today. So first and foremost, I would like to introduce the crafter of this bill. Her name is Shawanna Vaughn. Peace, Shawanna.
Peace.
We can't hear you. Are you on mute? Yes, you're on mute.
You still on mute, Queen.
Can I unmute her? I can unmute her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we lost her somehow. Okay, so she'll come back in. And the next person that I would like to introduce is my brother. We were both public health fellows, and you know, we had some amazing projects, and his project was a special project that speaks to this issue. So I definitely want to introduce him. We got Shawanna back. Peace, Shawanna.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So next we got my brother Joe Williams. Peace, peace, my brother. What's good with you?
Peace, family. How's everybody doing? Glad to be
Everything
here.
great.
Peace.
Everything is great. So next, I would like to introduce one of my co-workers. This lady right here, she's like the breath and life of the team that I work for. She actually puts her heart and soul into this work. And if you have been involved with the agency that I work with, you know this lady's name. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mrs. Toni Dreer. Peace, Toni.
Peace.
Peace, beloved. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Queen.
Hello, Queen. How you?
So last but not least, I want to introduce a brother. He's a late addition. I sent him the flyer for the podcast, and he seen what the topic was. He said, "Yo, hold up, I'm supposed to be a part of this discussion. So I'm not going. This is the Speak Your Mind podcast with the Ali. So if somebody want to be part of the discussion, then I'm going to send them a link. You understand what I'm saying? He has lived experience, so we definitely gonna bring him into this. And he was on one of our podcasts. I think the one rites of passage not too long ago. So he definitely was adding on to that conversation, and I think he's gonna be fruitful in this conversation as well. So peace to my brother Moshe Kanti. Peace.
Peace, brother.
Everybody, peace. Salamu
Peace.
alaikum to everyone. How y'all
Alaikum
doing?
salam.
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi barakatuh.
So how's everybody doing this after? I hear it's beautiful outside. I'm so happy that y'all didn't go outside and get the beautiful air. Y'all came to spread y'all wisdom before y'all go and get the beautiful air. Because I hear it's very nice out there, and I gotta go for a nice walk or something.
Yes.
What's
for
good
sure.
with y'all? How y'all doing this Sunday? Go ahead, y'all can speak.
Nah, but I'm gonna defer to the women, man. I'm gonna play my position.
Okay.
I'm spending my beautiful first part of my Sunday with you guys, with the Ali Show. So I'm so happy to be here. And at 7 o'clock, I'm going to spend the rest of my Sunday evening doing a women's Zoom event called I Am Beautiful and celebrating women because this pandemic and just life, women in totality need to be celebrated. So that is be spending the rest of my night doing after hanging out with you beautiful people.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So listen, I would like to start um by basically qualifying ourselves. I'm gonna start with myself. You know, my name is the God I Be. I did 9 years in a state correctional facility. Um, During that time, I was able to better myself through various classes. I was able to get a college degree. I was able to read many books and do various things to get my life in order. But prior to even coming to the up north prison system, I was already doing various skip bids in the county jail. So the prison system, the jail system, that had been a very much a part of my life. And now that I'm no longer going back and forth and revolving within the system. I currently work for an alternative to incarceration organization here in New York City. So, even though I'm not involved on that side, I'm still currently involved with, the criminal justice system. So what I want everybody to do right now is to please state their name, how much time they did, if they did time in the criminal justice system, and your current field of work. And we'll start with Shawanna.
So my name is Shawanna Vaughn. I'm the director of Silent Five. I did 4.5 years, and I am currently writing policy and legislation called post-traumatic syndrome disorder, Shawanna W7633.
That's peace. Next, we'll go to Joe Williams.
Peace, family. My name is Joseph Williams. I like to go by Joe. I have done a total of 15 years in prison, close to 11 in New York, 4 in Jersey prior to that. So in total, like over 15 years. Where I work now, I work between Mount Sinai Morningside Psychiatric Emergency Department, where I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And I also work for a community-based organization in Queens, where I'm situated in Martin Van Buren High School, implementing the My Brother's Keeper program.
Peace. Thank you so much.
So next we'll go to Toni Dreer.
Salam. My name is Toni Dreer. And I think that if I had to add it up in totality between Rikers Island and in the upstate, I probably devoted about 7 years, maybe more, of my life in and out because, much like you, Ali, I was, I had a room on Rikers. And when I finally got state time, that's when I knew like that wasn't for me. When I got state time, I was also introduced into Islam. And it was at that time like things started to change for me. My current role, I'm the women's specialist with cases, which is an alternative to incarceration program. And I'm invested in that because when I was going back and forth within the criminal justice system, I was never picked up by a program like cases. And I think that it's my responsibility. Allah cleaned me up and set me right back in the midst of all my myths so that I could be that person to the next person that's coming through.
That's peace. Thank you.
So last but not least, my brother Moshe Canty.
Thank you, IB. My name is Moshe Canty. I spent a total of 22 years incarcerated straight. I just was released last September 8th. Since coming home, I'm currently employed as a youth employment mentor for the Center for Community Alternatives. I'm also the CEO of Conscious Mind Ventures LLC, which is a consulting company that delivers services to pretty much anyone in the field of academics, the gang subculture, the criminal justice. In addition to that, I spent about 15 of those 22 years in SHU, fighting up north, whether it was in Attica and Clinton and Auburn against those racist police that were up there. So I was definitely on the front lines, risking my life daily. And I'm just thankful by the grace and mercy of Allah that I'm here to share this opportunity and my experiences with you all.
Wow, that's peace. Thank you. And I'm Shanice Gatewood Ali. I did not do any time, but I did get arrested. Um, it was different. I had somebody try to punk me the first night, on some uh, move over, on the bench. And it was just like, I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I did one butt cheek over, but then the rest I was like, nah, I'm not gonna be your sucker. That type of, I had to get on that type of time. And then after that, there was, it was just a lot that particular night. One bathroom, it was dirty, it was just a mess. And I always, about anytime when I hear the stories of what people have gone through, because I have been in the room with other people, and I want to share tears because I cannot imagine what everyone have gone through, seeing the pain, the this and the that, and still come out and still be, in my eyes and our eyes, all right, but you're not. So this panel with Shawanna Bill, we must promote it. And, this is why she's on today, to talk to everybody and see, ask questions, you're willing to sign. She got the information, and be a part of this movement with her. So this is why we're doing what we're doing. So I say peace with that.
Right. So um, the process of doing time, right? It's damaging to the mental. But sometimes we minimize it. Like for instance, sometimes you will crack jokes about the brother that was in How to Be a Menace and Drink Juice Within You, to drink juice in your hood. The brother who had, he had the mirror. He's at the spades table playing, and he got the mirror. He looking behind himself with the mirror, and then he had the ice pick, and he ready to get busy with the ice pick and all of these different things. But what we don't realize is that some of these are layovers from being incarcerated, that actually people really still feel certain ways because of being incarcerated. Like sometimes somebody may get in the shower with their boxer shorts on. I don't know how the women take showers in prison, but in prison where we was at, most of the brothers is wearing boxer shorts inside of the prison cell. And I remember first coming home, I was jumping in the shower with my boxer shorts on. People looking at me like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you understand what I'm saying? And it's strange because, you know, you wash your boxer shorts out and you hang them on the top of the shower curtain and all of that. And people, it's like, yo, this is strange behavior. Like, what exactly are you doing? So, you know, some of these things is things that we may look over, but it goes to a deeper conversation. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So, my queen, will you ask the second question?
Oh, yes. Excuse me. So, what is the post-traumatic prison disorder? And this is going to our queen, Shawanna, please.
So, post-traumatic stress disorder is trauma. And we're clear that the criminal justice system penalizes the punitive action, but it never addresses the root cause of why you did the action to begin with. And it was trauma. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be a robber. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to take somebody's life. That's usually not the case. And so trauma has led, I'm sure, all of us to prison because trauma happens over and over before we ever get to prison. Post-traumatic prison disorder wants to address the remnants of mass incarceration, but also address the trauma of how you got here. So the bill is asking that 14 days into incarceration, that you're assessed by a vendored therapist. That's really important. Vendored therapy. By a trauma-informed therapist. Because that's important. We're clear that the Department of Corrections has no doctors or therapists that should even be practiced, that can't address the trauma. And definitely we're clear that with 2.3 million people currently incarcerated, over half of them are minorities, and the therapists are not. And I'm also calling on vendor therapists because we know that there are African American and minority therapists. And now we need them to be vended into prisons to actually actively treat post-traumatic prison disorder. It's calling on guards getting holistic therapy because they create harm. And nobody ever addresses them. They are doing time too, and they are not having correct ways to release all the things that they're going through. And they need therapy to reduce their harm as well, and the harm that they inflict on others. It's also calling for alternatives to medication. The art. I know for a fact that the art saves people in prison. Education, journaling, one-on-one therapy, group therapy. All these things are vital. Post-incarceration, one of the things I asked for was marijuana. And some people frowned on it, looked funny. But I asked for marijuana because we're clear that African Americans and minorities have suffered the most for the RICO Act, for the 1994 Tough on Crime, for the Ronald Reagan War on Drugs. There are people right now sitting in prison for marijuana charges, get the FBI on its back. And it's becoming legal everywhere else for money purposes. So where's the reparation on the back end for the people that are in prison? That was my justification for that. Post-incarceration, I believe we should come home with the medications we need, with an evaluation plan for what we need, for therapy of what we need. We can't afford therapy coming home because they give us $40 in a bus ticket. And so if we're property of the state of wherever, then they should pay for us to be whole in totality. So we can go home and be better parents, better neighbors, and not create recidivism. And so this is what post-traumatic prison disorder is looking to do in the New York legislature, in New York State, and also in the state of Michigan.
Okay, so Michigan is the other place.
Michigan is the other place.
Okay. Do you happen to have earphones because you sound really muffled?
Really? Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. Can you please? Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
We want to be able to hear you good because, we want to promote what you're doing due to the fact that there's so many, as you see, as people on the panel, there's people that really want to, actually, more people wanted to be on this panel as well. But we want everyone to hear you clearly because we're asking people to listen to what you're saying, um and if they agree to go ahead and because we already know how folks are, right? We already know people will always have some extra stuff to say, so we want people to actually ask those questions to you, or and on the panel, so everybody could have a great understanding before they sound the bill, because we want to make sure people know what they're doing and what they're getting themselves into. um
So, would
so thank
anybody
you.
like to um, respond to what you heard us say, or ask some clarifying questions in what you heard us say about the post traumatic stress disorder? Go ahead.
So I'm gonna definitely jump in. One, do you prefer Miss Vaughn or Shawan? How do you
It does
prefer Joe to address you?
want to
Shawana?
start.
All right, Shawana. So when I was reading the bill, right, and when I start Googling and I'm looking it up, and it's reminiscent and could be why the Ali's asked me to join. I presented a public health fellowship that it's entitled Inside Out, and when that time is, I'll plug the project then. But as I was reviewing your bill, there were a few things that jumped out in my head, and one was, who qualifies for this diagnosis? Or is this a diagnosis that's applicable to everyone that is incarcerated? The verbiage kind of leads towards services will be provided for those who this diagnosis applies to, and for me, it's like, if it's differentiating, that's one thing. The second is, are there any foreseeable adverse consequences of this being a diagnosis on the formerly incarcerated? Because if we can agree, post traumatic prison disorder as a legit DSM diagnosis right now does not exist, correct?
It does not. That's what I'm working for right now. I have a psychologist. She works for the UN. Her name is Dr.
Okay.
Carol Ann Hunt Griffin, and that is exactly why I have her on my board. Right now, she's a human industrial trauma psychologist. I
Okay.
also have Resilience Lab, which is a psychotherapy psychologist group who has 5 practices here in New York. And the person who owns it is an adjunct professor at Columbia, because I'm actually trying to get it in the DSM-5, and that takes work, that takes research, that is being done right now, because I actually want it as a diagnosis to stand on its own,
Hmm.
so that people can receive the proper services, and it's in its own box. And to answer your question, post traumatic prison disorder is for everybody who's ever been impacted by the criminal justice system.
Okay. Good.
Um, and so the adverse effects, um, really should be none. Because here's the reality: we don't fit in the box of post traumatic stress disorder like the military.
Hmm.
And for women, we don't fit in the box for postpartum. We don't fit in these boxes because prison has a whole nother remnant of issues.
Hmm.
And so this is why I called it post traumatic prison disorder, named it after myself, because I suffer from some things that don't come from the military. They don't come from they come from trauma, and they come from prison.
Hmm.
Well, let's
And those things, only people who've been to prison or the trauma thereof can even understand.
well
And
let's
this
get
is
into
why I
that.
asked for vendor therapy,
Let's get into
because
that. So,
I've been a therapist for almost 2 decades, and they don't understand because they
That's
don't
fact.
look like me. They haven't been through anything. And so you can't treat me if you haven't been through anything, or you don't know the culture of my neighborhood.
can you hear me?
Doesn't work.
We can hear you. Yes.
So
So, Shawana,
absolutely.
Shawana, listen. Um, I want to get into specifically the symptoms because I don't know if I heard the symptoms, maybe because it was kind of muffled. But what are the symptoms of post traumatic prison disorder? Just to be clear.
But everybody is different. And that's what therapy is, not a one size fit all box. Everybody has different symptoms. None of us, no one of us on this panel would have the same symptoms. We have things that are alike, but nothing is the same.
I might
Yes,
challenge
Joe.
you on that. I think I'm gonna challenge you on that one. I think we do have a universal symptom, um, and that is I'm gonna retract that kinda because I don't want to. This is what I do believe. I do believe that for many of us who have spent substantial time incarcerated in various areas of our lives on this side, when we have made the cognizant choice to make actual and factual change, we make those strides towards change. However, I do believe that in our interpersonal relationships, and I think this is almost true for almost all of us, in our interpersonal relationships, be it with our significant other, our partner, our parents, our children, those relationships, there are tinged with a lot of strain because of the things that we had to experience or condition ourselves to go through and survive that experience mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And now here on this side, it's kind of fracturing at times. So I do believe that is a universal, and I don't know. I'm a rest there.
So
I
I
definitely
do
agree with you on
I have
that.
a question on that one. So I have noticed some people have um problems with sharing their emotions. So if that's one of the things that everyone is going through, have gone through being incarceration, because they had to like disconnect themselves emotionally because they in prison for so many years, that could be one of the post-traumatic prison disorders, Shawanna. Like,
Absolutely.
okay, okay.
Okay, cool. I can say for myself, right? Myself, I don't like to be in crowds, right? I really do not like being in crowds, and it comes from not only prison, but also being in situations where if I'm in a crowd, I got to be on the lookout for somebody trying to come by and cut me or punch me or snuff me or do any type of thing to me at a specific moment. So I'm constantly on the lookout. I'm constantly looking behind myself to the side, making sure the person that's coming in the room is not a op, as they say nowadays, or all of these different things. And even with going to a restaurant, I like to sit with my back to the wall and make sure I can see the door. Now they make fun of these things in movies like Goodfellas and these gangster movies and so forth. But these are things that we learn in the process of being in the life, also being in prison. Now, I know one of the terms for post traumatic stress disorder might be hypervigilance. I think that's equivalent to what they would call what I'm going through. Also, the anger, like easily getting anger, right? I don't know if this is something that other people can relate to, but sometimes it I could just go from 1 to 1,000. So I just wanted to drop a little bit of that in. Y'all can chime in, but I want to get some responses from Moshi Canty and Toni Dreer.
I'll let the sister go first.
I think that for me, I think that me going to prison, I believe that for me, my emotions were, I was traumatized before prison, and I was traumatized at a young age from childhood. So all my mess I took into prison with me, and it just elevated coming home. So I went in traumatized. I came out more traumatized. And in prison, they have jails inside of jails, and I spent my fair share of time in shoot because as an abused child, I wasn't going to let a male officer put their hands on me. And so I spent a lot of time fighting with the police. And so that's trauma on top of trauma that had never been dealt with. And like now that I'm home, I've been in therapy for almost 11 years. And now that I'm home, I listened to the brother talk about, how it presents itself in other areas of your life. My family can't stand over me. And I'm talking about already being in treatment. My family members can't stand over me because I catch issues with that. I remember being in bed and the guards coming, counting and standing over you. And so that still resonates in the back of my mind. It's a great bill. I would be on board to signing it. I'm also a firm believer that when you planning to come home, like your plans should start upon entrance, not when you come out. Like I'm not interested in that. You know, it's failure. What am I going to do when I get out? I've never worked a job. Cases is my first job. You know, I was a drug dealer. I was a street girl. What am I going to do? Because I don't know anything else. And so when you planning for discharge and when you planning to get into therapy, planning for things, you need to be planning while you in there. I wasn't into books, going to school, any of that when I was incarcerated. I was just looking to survive or hoping that somebody took me out. So I think that it's an amazing bill.
Wow. Thank you, Queen.
Appreciate that.
Well, my first question, my first comment is to the sister Shawanna. I want to know whether or not there are any overlapping similarities between PTSD and Ptpd.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what are they?
It is when I looked at the studies from people in the military, and also my sister and her husband are both veterans. When I looked at their studies, they have night terrors. They're violent. They have insomnia. Like she said, like she just said, you can't stand over people. They have some of the same things, only they're recognized and treated differently because it's the military. And coming from prison, we just don't have the same benefits as they have to get help. And that's what I'm trying to leverage is the playing field for benefits to get help. And I definitely agree with the queen that just said, for us, help should begin in the beginning. It should begin when you get there. And that's something that has not happened. I went to prison in the 90s, and it's definitely still not happening. You're not getting help in the beginning. I could not come home whole because I was still broken. So yes, it definitely overlaps with things from the military.
And that leads me to the second part of that, because do you have any concerns about whether or not, based on the fact that the prison demographic is stereotyped, is stigmatized, that they may pigeonhole those individuals, us in this case, who have experienced prison, and say that the diagnosis or the criterion for PTPD are the same as PTSD, and there's really no reason for us to create a whole nother diagnosis because those same symptoms are reflective in PTSD. Is that a concern of yours?
Um, that doesn't concern me because they vary. Um, they vary because they don't even treat us the same and we don't get the same services. So that's why I say they wouldn't. This is why I'm doing surveys. So I've started doing surveys and questionnaires for people right now currently that are incarcerated. And I work with 8 different prisons. So I'm currently at this juncture, along with Columbia helping me and the Melman Research Institute, am doing the surveys to prove my point and to get the people that are currently incarcerated and to to find the necessary things in all the surveys. So far, I have about 400 of them back, and they're being researched and evaluated to do the similarities, comparisons, and differences, and with psychiatrists' help to nail those down to make the argument, to make the case to separate the two.
Thank you, sister. The reason I'm asking those questions is because I agree. I believe that PTPD should be separated from PTSD. Obviously, I'm not somebody who's qualified and expert in that field, but I am qualified to speak about my own personal experience, right? And I know that what I've endured, I'm still struggling with it right now. I still jump out my sleep. I still the
So,
relationship that I have with my wife is a beautiful relationship, but when my wife and I we have disagreements, I'm still very defensive, overly defensive for just unnecessarily, and that is a testament to being against sadistic, authoritative, racist officers and constantly having to defend my position that I'm not going to allow you to mistreat me any way you want to mistreat me. So a lot of times I have a difficult time of distinguishing between when somebody is genuinely giving me some sound advice that can be of benefit to me, and when I'm hearing somebody tell me something, I'm just like, I'm not hearing that right now. That's that. And there are carryover effects, and I don't want to, keep that keep the mic, but there's a lot that I'm dealing with. So I definitely agree with you, sister. I just wanted clarification on that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
If
okay,
if I can,
brother.
Mo, what's good, bro?
Now go ahead.
Um, so it's you speak of the symptoms, and the similarities of the two. I definitely agree that PTPD should be a diagnosis in and of itself. Um, However, for the sake of having it recognized point blank period, I really truly don't care if it starts as a subset of PTSD, that it does get listed in the DSM, and then still traction gets moved to be a diagnosis of itself. This is the reason why I even say that. If it is acknowledged even as a subset of PTSD in the DSM, it becomes legitimate. And once it becomes legitimate, there is no denying that PTPD is in fact a thing. What are the crossover symptoms? Hypervigilance, relived experiences in the moments, those night terrors and tremors that you speak about, the insomnia, memory lapses, adrenal responses to external stimuli, where you just feel your body is in that response and you really can't figure out why. And it might have been the merest of things on the outside around you that has occurred. So I'm definitely in agreement there. I just wanted to share that.
Now, so to
Thank you so
recap,
much.
basically, from what I'm hearing, post-traumatic prison disorder, the Shawanna bill, is basically a bill for people who have been incarcerated, so that while they are incarcerated, they can be assessed and they could get the proper programming and counseling and medication or whatever so have you to assist them in reclaiming their life and to acclimate themselves into society upon release, right? So,
Absolutely.
with that established, who is sponsoring this bill currently?
Senator Brian Benjamin, Senator Comrie, and the Assembly is Kimberly Jean Pierre, Chantel Jackson from the Bronx, um, and oh, I'm sorry, and then Senator Jabari Briscoe, um, and Assemblyman Kimberly Jean Pierre and Chantel Jackson currently, and I am definitely seeking more sponsors, more amplification of this legislation because this is important. Mental health and mass incarceration has to be.
We lost your vocal. We can't hear you.
I was saying this
Okay.
is vital, and it has to be the turning point. If we do not address mental health right now in this crisis and this pandemic, then when?
how did you get the buy-in from the current people that's sponsoring the bill? Because I know a lot of people, they really don't care about this incarceration situation. Like we's the last on the list when it comes to getting any type of services. So how did you get people to actually buy in and say this is something I will sponsor?
So I sent the bill to the NAACP had a conference in 2019, and they passed my bill as a resolution unanimously for the NAACP, and that was the buy-in. I said, hey, the NAACP, 140-year-old organization, said they stand on this, and they started to look at it. And so Brian Benjamin took it. And with the assemblyman in Michigan, he's 25 years old. His friends are in jail. And it was an easy buy-in for him. And so because when I'm addressing it, I'm not even talking about prison so much as I'm talking about mental health. Mental health doesn't have a color, a border, a gender, and it doesn't discriminate. And then when I get to talking about the mass incarceration part, how do you want your neighbor to come home? How do you want the little girl who sits in your class next to your daughter, how do you want her parent, her mother or father, to come home? And so I try to know my audience and speak to them in languages that they understand to make sure that I don't leave anybody out, because this bill is not a minority bill. It's not a woman bill. It's not it's a global everybody bill, because mental health is a global everybody problem. And that's how I've tried to frame this legislation.
Go ahead, Shanice. We can't hear you, Shanice. Unmute yourself. We can't hear you. For some reason, we can't hear you. Unplug your microphone and plug it back in. Well, anyway, while she's getting that situated, I think she wants to ask you another question. So we're gonna ask that question, and then we're gonna go to a brief intermission, and then when we come back, we're gonna start to engage with Joe Williams about his project, and the different parameters of that, so we can add on to that. So
How long are we gonna intervene for?
it's only gonna be a quick video, and then we'll come back. But I think Shanice is having a little bit of issues, so I'm gonna ask.
I do have because I got a question for
I get 5 minutes
Shawanna as well.
I need to offer my.
All right, well, you go ahead and ask that question.
All right, so I do. Yo, you gotta go mix a lot, brother. If you gotta go, I mean, if you gotta mix a lot, go mix a lot. So I just wanted Shawanna. In the bill, it says, and here's my question: how do you propose to facilitate the incarcerated individual being, quote, transferred within 7 days to a facility with the capacity to provide the incarcerated individual, end quote, with his or her proper mental health reentry services? That idea of, if an individual gets to Clinton, and Clinton is not or is a DOHMH facility, and Woodburn is the only facility that has these services for this individual, because I don't want the bill to be passed, but then making it really in practice is not really feasible. So how do you propose that? That's what my question is.
And that's where vendor comes in, because vendor therapists can go anywhere.
Okay.
Vendor therapists can come to you and meet your needs.
Docs partners with vendor therapists?
Huh?
Does DOC partner with vendor therapists as a practice today?
That is what I'm getting them to do in this legislation.
Okay. Got you.
Because they don't do it, and that's what I want them to do, and that is why it's in the bill, because there it is. They're not willingly going to do anything outside of what they have to do. And even, speaking with people that are on the correctional associations. That was huge because it was pushed back, and then it was like because they don't have the capacity, and they know their therapists are not trained. They're very clear. Um, and so it's on us, the people, to say this is what we want and this is what you're going to do. Because the reality is, you work for us, and we don't treat you like you work for us.
Mm-hmm. So I hope y'all can hear me. Y'all can hear me?
Yes,
Okay, yes. So two things. Um, we have a lot of people our complexion that have their LCSW. So maybe you and actually have the same experience with the people that is inside, but now they
yeah,
outside and they got their degrees. This will be a great opportunity to partner up with those people. Like, for example, our brother right here, Joseph. he
that
have
is
his
exactly what I want to do.
right. So he have his LCW. LC. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm saying it right. So he has his LCW, LCSW. So I think it would be a benefit for, and we try to do this before, to bring some people in the same room, because this would be less on you to try to find the people. So by us having the Speak Your Mind podcast, we could actually help bring the people into the circle. So that's why we really wanted to have everybody on who have gone through the same trauma. Next thing is, if it's a people's situation, post-traumatic prison disorder, why does it have to say Shawanna on the bill? Go ahead.
So, for those who do not know about writing policy and legislation,
Mm-hmm,
there are bill thieves out here.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
There will people who will steal your idea. They will take your legislation and they will run the gamut. Okay.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I was told from the beginning, oh, you want to write policy? Okay. And they told me, don't even share your idea until it's finished. And I
mm-hmm,
said, this is bad. And the best advice I got was name it after yourself.
mm-hmm,
And they were like, if that is your experience and that is your legislation, then you own it from the beginning to the end. Run it because it's you.
mm-hmm,
And they also taught me that bills have more traction when it's named after something that people can resonate with.
mm-hmm,
So I said, oh, okay. And so they showed me bills of people
mm-hmm.
and names and the story. So bills with stories and people and that are authentic pick up traction faster.
Right.
And
So,
so that's when I'm learning. Like I'm going to Atlanta the first week in April to a rally at the governor's mansion to talk about this legislation. And they said, every like I told them, I said I have two more bills I want to drop in 2021. And they were like, make sure it's something that is memorable.
mm-hmm,
And so I was like, okay. And so that's why the bill was named after myself, and I used my prison number
right.
because I wanted people to understand that that number on the end
Mm-hmm,
was more important than my name.
mm-hmm,
Because the state of California told me W76337 was my name.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
said, okay, you know what? I'm aware of that, but now I'm gonna make it have purpose.
Right.
You made it, you did it for something else. Now I'm gonna use it for this.
Right. So
And so that is actually why the bill is named what it is.
right. And
And I
that
think,
I
and I
wanted you to express that because, as you know, I'm working on something for domestic violence. So as I look at the policies and bills that they have in legislation, I see they have names and, but I know that, that, a few other people might know that, but the other audience might not know why you have it named after you. So I just wanted you to clear that up. And I appreciate you willingly clearing that up for, and the name, the number. I know that was your number from, being where you was at. And I wanted you to clear that up as well. Also, do you have anything regarding to I think I heard somebody mentioning this before, where is stop calling a person who's home an inmate.
So that's my second piece of legislation
Oh shoot.
is a
Okay, so let's
verbiage
not talk
bill.
about it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Joe. I seem like you was
I
about to
mean,
say
hold up,
something.
hold up. I
Yeah,
mean, I
if
just want to go. Oh, yo, Joe Williams, go ahead.
Now, I was gonna say, if you notice, when I was rereading it and I did your quote, I inserted incarcerated individual and not inmate because I'm like we not jacking that, we're not jacking the verbiage of offender, what it
Yeah.
means, what it signifies. Somebody that's you're either a prisoner because you are in prison, you are incarcerated individual, or you are a formerly incarcerated individual. We're not with them titles of an inmate but let me not go off on a
Okay.
tangent there.
No, I understand because that's what somebody said to IB called him when he saw him. I think it was a teacher or professor that was in facilitating and a facilitator. He was a facilitator in a facility, and he said, "Oh, so I'm glad to see the inmate home doing what he was doing." And my husband was really upset, so I told him, let's start teaching people how to treat us. So what you need to do is write that person and let that individual know your name is da 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 and that inmate. So that is the way we're going to address people for now on. We're going to send them a nice soft letter, let them know, do not disrespect me like that. Because once you want to get this bill passed, we're going to use post-traumatic prison disorder for our come up. No, I'm just joking.
I just sent it. I just sent that to you. You notice I sent it to you about that was Eddie Ellis. Eddie Ellis's the late Eddie Ellis's his
That's a
letter,
fact.
on open letter on the usage of language and
Right.
how
Right.
he sought to strip our misuse of those terms that were used historically to denigrate us. So
Mm.
I just sent it to you, IB.
No, no, listen, my brother Anthony Dixon, he has drilled that conversation into me, that whole non-traditional approach. We had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and that's my brother. He taught me all about the think tank and Green Haven and everything about, the use of this verbiage and the use of even terms like rehabilitation and re-entry. How you gonna say you have re-entry if you never entered into society in the first place, or you was never habilitated in the first place, right?
Yeah.
All of these terms are terms that really don't suit us because we never was part of society in the first place. And then if you want to call us an inmate or a criminal or this or that, a felon or this or that, that never gives us a chance to actually be the person that we were made to be, or the person that we have evolved into through the process, right?
Right.
You have all of these different people that have been to prisons. Like I spoke to people. I was doing a class yesterday on health education and promotion, and I told them, like, listen, there's plenty of people that have been in the prison cell, but would you call Martin Luther King a criminal?
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
Would you
Mm-hmm.
call Moses a criminal? Right? Would you call Malcolm X a criminal? Because
Mm.
the person that went in that cell, they may have went into that cell for various different reasons, but the thing that came out of the cell is something totally different. And these cells was not made for us. So if we go against the things that's going on in society, we can easily end up in a cell. So anyway, I just wanted to before we go to this brief intermission, I just wanted to ask Shawanna real quick, how many signatures, because I know that you're asking for signatures, how many signatures do you need to bring attention to this bill?
Whoo, about 10,000 of them.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay,
So
so we got work to do.
yeah, we
Got
got
work to do.
to
Okay.
pound this pavement. Okay, so we might you have Silent Cry. Silent Cry is a nonprofit organization, correct?
Yes.
Right. So, under the guise of Silent Cry, we may need to put in some type of grant or something so that we could get people to actually pound the pavement with clipboards and get these signatures in these streets.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Because that would be a way so we can at least piece them off with some type of incentive so
Send
that
it to-
people are actually go out there and
absolutely.
get the signatures. All right, so we're gonna go through a brief intermission real quick, and when we come back, we gonna kick it off with Joe Williams and the project that he started in the BPI Fellowship.
You got it over there?
Yeah, I got it.
There we go.
Black women, all kinds of women in all walks of life, trying to get their life together, knowing that we don't need men to hurt us. We love ourselves first. You love yourself first, everything else will come after that. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this organization, WAPW. And
bunch of queens from WAPW that I can turn to anytime, day or night, and my queens have my back.
Wow.
Okay, so
Every time I watch that video, I get choked up.
that video is serious right there. That's a serious deal. So that video basically was for We Are Phenomenal Women, an organization that fights against domestic violence. That was one of their support groups where they were supporting the sisters. This is my queen's organization, and I'm gonna let her speak on it because I don't want to take away her story in any way.
That's so funny. Thank you so much. Appreciate you showing the video. Every time I watch that video, it tears me up. So We Are Phenomenal Woman is a organization that want to educate our people on domestic violence. Not of yet I have the opportunity to bust down the door and remove somebody out of a in toxic relationship. But what I can do is to educate you on it and let you see and realize and recognize that you are in a toxic relationship and you need some help, services, or so on. So right now, We Are Phenomenal Woman is in the process of reaching out to other organizations that want to blend in with us. We are also working on our shelter. I was just interviewed with someone last week who spoke to us about an 80 unit all single woman shelter. They have enough family shelters out here, but they don't have too many single woman shelters. So, in the process of that, it's a lot of work. It takes time, and it's going to get done. With that, I say peace.
Peace. So, um, I just want to say that, Speak Your Mind podcast is open for the people. We are looking for sponsors. If you would like to have your commercial or video played on our podcast, you can reach out to us at I am phenomenal unlimited at gmail.com. We gonna work with the people, so we're not gonna charge too much of a fee to promote whatever merchandise or whatever your company is or the organization that you have. We would definitely play your video. We will definitely promote you. If you're currently watching this video, though, please go to YouTube, Speak Your Mind podcast with the Alis, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you could get notifications for all of our podcasts in the future. Also, like this video, because when you like the video, it gets put into rotation. I just want to say that I have some excellent news. I don't know if everybody knows, but they have currently passed a new bill in New York State for halt solitary confinement, right? So I just want to read a little bit about that real quick before we get into my brother's project. So hold on. Can you see this?
Yes.
You see, it says, okay, let me see what I
bring it closer.
Oh, hold on, let me switch this up. Let me come out of that and go to something else. Stop that screen. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, that was Johnny Perez that said it. It's been passed. The act been passed.
Yes, and this is the part I want you to see, though.
Awesome.
Okay, so look, it says today the Senate passed the Human Alternatives to Long-Term Solitary Confinement Act, sponsored by Senator Julia Salazar. This legislation limits the use of segregated confinement for all incarcerated persons to 15 days, implements alternative rehabilitative measures, including creation of a residential rehabilitation unit, expands the definition of segregated confinement, and eliminates the use of segregated confinement for vulnerable incarcerated populations. So you can find this on the New York State Senate website. This is the Halt Solitary Confinement Act. It has been passed, and today they're having a rally. They're having a rally at the mansion, at the governor's mansion here in Manhattan at 2:00. But they're currently out there right now in Manhattan, and I think in Albany as well. So this is a major victory for those who know what it's like to be in solitary confinement. That thing is no joke. You understand what I'm saying? Just being in solitary confinement for 24 hours, they say, can have an effect on an individual. And many of us has been in there from maybe 30 days on to 10 years. And it's people that's been in solitary confinement 30 plus years. Like Bosket. What's his name? Bosket.
It's about Willie. You talk about Willie Bosket.
Willie Bosket has been in solitary confinement. They made a unit for him in Woodburn Correctional Facility, and he's been in solitary confinement for a very long time. So individuals like that who have been affected by that solitary confinement, they're going to have to be released. And the longest amount of time that you could be in there is for 15 days. So this is a major victory.
Wow.
I really salute the brothers who put in that work.
So before we get on, before Joe get on real quick, is it true that when somebody spend 10 years in in incarceration or in prison, do they get a SSI check? I heard they 10 years. Okay, I see. Can't. Okay, I see y'all saying no.
Right, so come on, talk about it.
Yeah, let's.
Don't just shake your head.
Help me understand that one, because I don't.
Go ahead, sister. Go ahead, sister.
Toni.
Yeah, that's not true.
What?
That's not true.
So
Even when you come home, like you got to fight tooth and nail to get anything that the government got to offer you. They tell you spend this much time, you come home to these benefits. That's a crock. You still got to fight tooth and nail. And a lot of times that's why the prison system is that revolving door, because hook or crook, I'm going to eat. Like you're not going to stop me from eating. And the promises that you make when I'm incarcerated is not what you live up to when I get home. And so now it's up to me to make my way. But yeah, that's a whole falsehood, Queen. Like that's a whole falsehood.
wow.
Yeah, I was doing some research on that before I even left the penitentiary, and that is one of the biggest myths out, that we're gonna be able to take advantage of Social Security relief in the aftermath of spending more than 10 years of incarceration. That's just not true. And I don't want to hog the mic up, but one of my comrades is currently, he's been in the box right now for 6 years under false allegations that he, along with others, were trying to overthrow the administration in Greenhaven. These mendacious claims have never been proven to be true, and they use the words of unreliable, uncredible um, prison house, informants to concoct this lie. And he's been right now. His name is Amin Booker. He's currently in mid-state, 200 box, and he's been in the box right now for 6 years straight. So the news that they just passed this whole solitary confinement is actually some good news. I don't know how it tends to impact him, how it will impact him, but we've been fighting for his release, for years. He's definitely somebody who needs to get out of that place, man. So I just wanted to say that.
Wow. So I see Shawanna had to get off. She has another meeting, she said.
Okay. I thought we lost it to this. Has anybody been having issues with their internet? Because the internet has been crazy for us over here. We went through a whole situation during the pandemic where the internet was blocking us from getting phone calls, and we had to go to war with Spectrum. And well, I don't want to go too crazy because you know that they might just try to cut the podcast. But it's been a whole lot of issues with this internet. They say because all of the people are in the house now, so we're taking up a whole bunch of bandwidth or whatever so happen. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But I will comment on the last thing that you were talking about. I was like, damn, if you get benefits after 10 years, I didn't make it. I only got 9 years. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I could have got I had one more year. Nah, just messing around. But anyway, my brother Joe Williams is on deck right now. We definitely want to talk to him about his project. We were both part of the Barred Prison Initiative and the Public Health Fellowship upon our release. This Public Health Fellowship was very fruitful for me, I will say, because nowadays, when I'm out here and I'm doing my work in the community and I'm dealing with people on this topic of public health, a lot of the people that came through that fellowship, I mean, as guest speakers, are people that are big in the field, like Dr. Gary Belkin and the brother who did the project about the redlining. What's his name? Do you remember his name, Joe? I always say his name, but anyway, I just saw him on New York One with the mayor, and they was talking about the vaccines and all of this different stuff. So all of these people that was coming through, they are big people in the field. But anyway, we're not talking about them now. We're talking about my brother. We want to give him his flowers. So what was your project specifically for the Public Health Fellowship?
So my project was entitled Inside Out, and I kind of named it not after the movie, the cartoon movie about the emotions inside out and how they are enacted and like to portray emotions and personalize them. But for me, the inside out was how can the trauma of the crime and punishment paradigm be effectively addressed? It had to be addressed on the inside as well as on the outside to affect actual change. And when I say that the traumas of the crime and punishment paradigm, it's not just the time that was traumatizing. It was the actual crimes, as Shawanna mentioned earlier, the crimes some of us committed or were arrested for prior to even experiencing incarceration. That whole back and forth of going in front of a judge and you standing next to a lawyer who's speaking on your behalf, and he's speaking a language that until you learn and study is foreign to you, and you have no say. Your body is not yours. That in and of itself is traumatizing. And then when we think about the time, right, and we think about, yes, there's the trauma of the violence, yes, there's the trauma of the racist overseers and individuals who are put in these positions of power over us, who have clear racist doctrines and agendas. But what about the traumas of losing a loved one while you up north, while you behind the wall, while you away, and you can't go and share your goodbyes with the rest of the family? What about the traumas of your child growing up, or God forbid something happening to them, and you can't be there physically to walk them to school, to teach your son how to ride a bike, let alone to play ball? You know, the traumas of a significant other leaving you. Like, listen, you made your decision. I'm out here. I got to face this reality. And out here, I'm not riding this bed with you. And the trauma of being alone, the trauma of being lonely. Like, so these are various and cumulative traumas that address individuals. And this is an expectation that when I was studying as a social worker at Columbia University, after doing almost 15 years in prison in total, it was encouraged that those of us getting into the field of social work should have a therapist. Because of the things that you experienced, because of what clients in essence pour into you, you need to have a therapist where you can help mitigate the effects of the work that we do. And then it hit me. I did 4 years in Jersey. I got arrested for trafficking close to 100 grams of crack and 2 guns in my Jeep from 98 to 02. I got my parole transferred in 02, and I was home in New York for about 9 months and a week. And within that time, I was right back into the lifestyle. And within that time, I was right back. And I was facing double digits. And for me, all of the traumas that I experienced, it hit me that I never address what I experienced while on the inside. How is it I am expected to be this put together, rehabilitated individual to re-enter society on the outside? My parole stipulations included a curfew, included don't congregate with no felons, included, be gainfully employed, included, well, if it was a violent crime, do an anger management session. And if you had drugs on your jacket, do a substance abuse program. But never was a stipulation or even a suggestion to be connected to a therapist to address the traumas of the crime and punishment paradigm for all the time you face. And I think if something is put in place to help us as the bill proposes, as we've heard on this call, to address the traumas of being arrested, being incarcerated, being sentenced, coming up north, address those traumas, address the traumas experienced on a day-to-day basis of somebody 20 years you're single telling you, lock in now. And you got a visit coming up with your family. And you got to weigh that ego and gratification versus I want to see my family and not behind a plexiglass. So it's traumas after traumas after trauma. If those can be addressed on the inside, it can destigmatize mental health treatment. And it can also help connect millions or many individuals who may not typically qualify for mental health services while incarcerated to be connected to applicable and appropriate mental health treatment. I know that was a lot, so my bad, y'all.
Wow. That's okay.
Do we have to break that down into smaller bites so we can address each piece? Or would anybody like to respond to what he just said first?
Well,
let's get to that.
Toni, if you don't mind, can I comment on that first? All right. So Brother Joe, you spoke on a lot, but there was something that definitely stuck out to me, which everything you spoke about stuck out. But one thing in particular that affected me, the trauma that affected me that I can speak to, was that while I was incarcerated, I lost my sister was killed, my youngest brother was killed, and I lost my mother, I
Mm.
lost my father, I lost my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, my maternal grandmother, and a host of other uncles, aunts, friends, etc. Um, it the impact being that we've all been there before, we can relate to losing loved ones while we've been incarcerated, and the trauma associated with that, being that my family is so tight knit. It was really traumatic, and I still struggle with that. Like when I say I jump out of my sleep, I still call my sister's name.
Mm.
I mean, I've accepted the fact that my family's gone. As a Muslim, we say it's the qadr of Allah. What Allah decrees, it is what it is. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Alhamdulillah. That's what it is. Verily, to whom Allah creates, is to whom He creates us all. We belong to Him. We're gonna return to Him. This is my belief. I hold on to that, right? So I'm firm in that. But there's still trauma. There's still remnants of the experience of losing those loved ones while I was incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
And each loss affected me differently.
Mm-hmm.
The sister spoke about how while she was incarcerated, she um, announced the Shahada and became a Muslim. I was gangbanging at the time. I was all in, right? And I left the lifestyle alone and was reduced to my knees. Like literally, I was in SHU and I received the news that my mother had died. And my mother was my best friend. And when I tell you that it reduced me, her loss reduced me to my knees, I'm talking about I dropped to the floor completely and didn't know what to do. But my sister's death is where I contemplated not wanting to be here no more. The trauma of losing her at such a young age. She was 22 when she died, and the thought into my mind, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this no more. So there's a lot of trauma in each of these losses. Thankfully for me, my mother's loss put me in a situation where it made me reevaluate the lifestyle I was living, being a gang leader, um, doing things that I should not have been doing. But it put me in a position in which I became a Muslim, and it changed my life. My life has been on the trajectory was just, I've been going up since then, and Allah knows best. But it was a struggle, and I still struggle with that trauma of being of being in the SHU and receiving the news of you lost this loved one. You lost this loved one. I used to hate seeing the prison chaplain. Like it was just like I just knew he was coming to see me. It got to the point where it was just like, all right, who is it now? I became so desensitized to the loss of my loved ones that it's really hard for me to explain. I have not still properly mourned their
Mm-hmm.
loss because I had to go into prison mode. Oh, your
Mm-hmm.
sister got killed. All right, yeah, whatever. It's lit. Let's go in. All right, your brother got killed. All right, yeah, but I didn't even have the proper way to mourn. So I'm still struggling and dealing with that today. And I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to say that. But thank you, Joe, because what you speak of a very, very critical component of that whole process. Thank you, my brother.
Wow. Thank
Tony,
you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you all.
Tony.
Wow. Wow. Um, I think that I shared a little earlier about going into prison with my trauma. Um, but alhamdulillah, Allah built me up for what I needed to deal with after, because my brother just killed himself. So trauma for me inside the prison, I've probably been in therapy now for about 11 years, but giving me what I need. I think that if I would have had any type of assistance when I was incarcerated, it may have made a difference for when I came out. Yeah, I took a Shahada, brother, when I was in prison, but I came home and lived that same lifestyle because the masjids and the women, the sisters weren't so welcoming, you know, and that's something else that that's another topic for another time when we talk about trauma, because it's also a part of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn to accept myself. I don a title of queen now, but that was a battle within itself to even get there. I'm just looking forward to learning more.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Wow.
you.
Thank you. I want to speak about another. I do want to touch on, as we speak about not only trauma and the therapy needed. This project was born out. Inside Out was a project born out of, like I said, as a social worker, I'm encouraged. You should be in therapy. You should be in therapy. You should be in therapy. And then as I remember my parole stipulations, and each time I went before a board, it was never mentioned that I should be connected to therapy. So as I started looking for therapists as a formerly incarcerated individual, and I'm doing a Google search, it was coming up crickets. I would type in therapists who treat formerly incarcerated individuals, and I wouldn't get anything. I would get some agencies like maybe cases will pop up because the word incarcerated, and because of certain word searches, it connects to that algorithm. But there wasn't a search, and Joe Williams's face will pop up saying, I am a formerly incarcerated individual, and I'm a therapist, and I treat formerly incarcerated individuals. I couldn't find that. So then I started searching formerly incarcerated therapists. And it was as if none of us existed. And I'm saying to myself, I know I'm not the only licensed clinical social worker who has been released in the last 10 years and who is now qualified and credentialed. And I'm not letting it be known that I am not only a formerly incarcerated therapist, but that I work with this vulnerable population. And as I'm doing more research, I find out. So as a formerly incarcerated individual, we fall under what's called vulnerable populations. Oh, we do. Okay. And yet we are not afforded the same resources and protections as these other vulnerable populations. Anytime you read the clause when it's like, be it for a job application, any application, and they list their reasons for why they won't discriminate against you, it'll say you can't be discriminated against for sex, religion, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. It never says for being formerly incarcerated. And because it never says for being formerly incarcerated, that is another fuel or ammunition that agencies, companies, and individuals use to continue discrimination, right? So these are a bunch of things that I'm saying, how can I help address this? So the thought in the public health project was Inside Out. And Inside Out, man, my project, it uncovered so much. To seek mental health treatment services behind a wall, in case anybody doesn't know, takes on a punitive approach. And what I mean by that is this. While you're inside, you have a certain prison classification level, right? The less you get in trouble, the less you have infractions on your record, the more you program, the more you do what you quote unquote are supposed to do, you get a better prison classification number. The moment someone writes a slip for sick call and says, I would like to see the psych, and it doesn't include anything. You could have just got bad news that you lost a loved one, and you say, I would like to see a psych. You submit that slip. When that slip gets received, automatically your prison classification number drops. There's an alert on it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wow. When your prison classification drops, it restricts you from certain jobs. It restricts you from certain visiting privileges. It restricts you from certain access to certain facilities that may have certain programming that can help individuals as they try to make sense of the time that they have and prepare for their release, right? So the approach to mental health services on the inside is punitive as a whole. The more my research found was that out of the 100% of the prison population, there's only 20% of this population who qualifies for mental health treatment services. The other 80% or general population, you guys are right, y'all don't need mental health treatment. So when you do seek services, this is why the flags are raised. This is why the classification drops. And how do they remedy your requests? Well, as it stands, the last I checked, they have three options when you request to be connected to a therapist or a psychiatrist. You get 3 visits, and in those 3 visits, it's deemed nothing's wrong with you and you can't drop for mental health services. It's either they connect you with a therapist and you may have to move to a facility that has OMH services there, or they deem that you need medication and then they give you medication. And we all seen how the basketball star started taking medicine and now he's a zombie in the yard. So we've seen these approaches. So for individuals that's in population who's struggling, who's going through things, and when you see this is the result of mental health, it's stigmatizing. I'm good. I don't need that. So it turns people off from even engaging or seeking mental health treatment from the start. And this is what my program is trying to address. Inside Out is a means of providing individuals who are currently incarcerated with qualified, respectable individuals, men and women who have shared experiences or may not have shared experiences, but who are willing to take their clinical skills into these prisons and whole chop it up sessions, whole one-to-one kick it sessions with individuals to help them work through and process and mitigate the adverse childhood experiences, the ACEs that you may have experienced as a child, the abuse that you experienced, the sexual trauma, the physical trauma, the emotional trauma that led to you committing the crimes that you committed. Let's talk about that while we're on the inside. And as you come to terms with that, you start doing your bid differently. And then let's work on how you do your bid strategically for the outside. And so now that counselor, that clinical individual, also either tags in a mentor or connects with a counselor or does the mentoring and counseling his or herself to that incarcerated individual, where they start crafting a 5-year plan for the inside or the out. How you practice is how you play.
Okay, so wait, Joe, I'm sorry. As I'm so sorry. I just want to cut you because I do want you to I do not want you to say too much because there could be other people that could be listening and still trying to figure their way of how to craft certain things themselves and take some of your stuff. And so out of respect, and this is, sidebar, as you just heard Shawanna say, before she can really say too much at the beginning, because I know Shawanna for a while. At the beginning, she couldn't say too much because she had to craft it and put it on have someone to sponsor her bill. So with that, I just don't want you to say too much and then somebody take your stuff and eat that up. But your bill, what you're planning on doing, it sounds extremely good. We hear. I would love to talk to you in sidebar, my husband and I, and form that with you or whatever it is that we could help you out with. But I don't want you to say too much because your stuff sounds good. Shawanna's stuff sounds good. And maybe I could blend it in or I don't know, but this is the purpose of having this type of conversation, and maybe we could do it again and bring in more people. Cause at the end of the day, it's about helping the people and not just an individual. Cause it seemed like to me that almost everybody had that. Everybody had PTSD, but a lot of people who've gone through, being away from home, I seem like all y'all have this great similar situations, as my husband mentioned, 9 years he served. And sometimes he jumps up real quick. You know, I peep that. Or he's up
You
at
shouldn't be
5 o'clock.
walking. You shouldn't be walking up on me like that. You walk up on me like that, I'm jump up. One day, I remember one day we was in the living room. I'm sleeping on the couch. She walk up on me. I don't know what it was. Did she give me a drink or something? I jumped up all the way up. She's like, what's wrong with you?
Wait a minute. So, you know,
I'm like,
you know, or he still
it's
gets
real.
up at 5 o'clock in the morning and he still read, you know. So I and I believe someone, either you'll Bill Joe or Shawanna Bill or both together, y'all should put something where is the family is have understanding, the family get some education on it as well, because I had to learn on my own as well, and tell him I got you. You know, I remember when we first got together, him and I used to go to a lot of events because a lot of my friends are artists, and we used to go to the club and watch them perform. And the way he used to look, and I'm like, baby, I got you. Like, if somebody, we both in here, you know, do what we got to do. So after a while, it kind of like lowered that, but he's still on a high alert as all the time. But you know, I understand a lot of family members don't understand. A lot of female family members don't want to even don't want to understand. Some of them don't understand why he's from 1 to 1,000. You know, I stay quiet. I just let him go ahead. After a while, I'll be like, you know what, you got it. You know, he's on defense mode, and I understand that too. So, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot on both ends, and I love my husband so much that I'm willing to rock with him all the way through. So, with that, I say peace.
So I just want to add. Thank you for that too. I love you too. You see, if you look at I Am Phenomenal, if you look at our emblem in the corner of the screen, you see that we're back to back because we got each other back, and ain't nobody coming from the back, and ain't nobody coming from the front because we looking both ways. So that's why our emblem is like that. You understand what I'm saying? This is about the Ali's being together as a unit. So I just want to add one aspect of it that I know that has affected me. I don't know if y'all may have felt the same thing. I think the brother Moshe Kanti may have spoken to it. Now, in the process of my incarceration, my father fell extremely ill, and in that time period, I had to steel myself because my father told me one day, I want to have a conversation with you. And I kind of knew what the conversation was, but I didn't want to have the conversation. But anyway, long story short, what I did was like a lot of us do when we're incarcerated, I steeled myself for the inevitable. So I had already got my mind to a place where I felt that my father wasn't here no more. And last year, I actually truly lost my father during the coronavirus because he had diabetes and hypertension, and he died to the illness of the coronavirus, COVID-19, because of his pre-existing conditions. And it was strange to me because I didn't have the outpouring of grief that I would like I had with my sister who died 3 months before, because I had already in my heart felt that my father wasn't here already. And it was the stealing that I had did while I was in prison. That lack of emotion, that just, you know, just you gotta steel yourself, because it's certain things that we go through, like especially when it comes to children and, you know, former relationships, and just blocking all of that out so that we could get through the bed. Because if you focus too much on family and children and all of these different things while you're in the bed, you're gonna wind up in, you know, one of those satellite units. You know what I mean? You're gonna be spitting shit and all of this stuff that brothers is doing. You understand what I'm saying? So this is real deal. This is real deal. That's why I salute both of you. That's why I wanted both of you on this podcast. Both of these things coincide in a great way. And I think that we should all be working together on this issue because it's a greater issue that we have to tackle. Now, the last thing I wanted to add to this is, over the last year, I have become what they call the certified recovery peer advocate, right? And one of the criteria for becoming a peer advocate is having a person with lived experience. Now, usually they deal with substance use and mental health. But I think that there should be surplus for people that are formerly incarcerated. I think that that should be a something that we can become state certified in, even within the prison. So when they install these two bills or these two modalities of treatment for individuals on the inside, they can have peers that are able to relate to them in a way that clinical people cannot. And I just want to get y'all take on that.
If I may, that's one of the things that I'm working on. It's going back on the inside. I think that it's imperative, right, for people to understand that you can come home and stay home, right? Mental health is an important part, addressing those traumas when you get on the outside. And it's always been stated, I listen to Joe talk about the classifications and how they go up or down depending. When you sit in a bullpen at Central Booking and you don't want to feel once you get to Rikers, it's automatically known. You go see the psych and they prescribe you something and you don't feel anything because you hide throughout your whole bid. And I fell into that. I never addressed the fact that there could possibly be something wrong with me. Post-traumatic stress. What is that? I really didn't delve into that until, as I said, like 11 years. I've been in treatment for 11 years and addressing and letting us know, us as a people know, it's all right to be diagnosed with something. It's all right to seek treatment for it because it only provides to make you a better you. Mm-hmm. So I'm working on going back into the prisons because mental health is something that's frowned upon, and I came from the South. Going upstate was very traumatic for me because I was around a bunch of white folks that looked like the people that used to burn the crosses in my front yard when I was a little girl growing up. So that was trauma again on top of trauma. And I think that I'm trying to get myself situated, and I'm jumping through hoops right now because I'm trying to get back into the prison systems the legal way, and get the word out. Like, it's okay. It's okay to seek treatment for yourself while you in and once you're out.
Wow. So thank you, Queen. I was given the opportunity to go into the women's I think we went to Rikers Island, the women's prison, and it sat in my heart because a few of the women actually said they don't get visits like the men do, So for us to be there, and we fed them, we gave them, homemade food. We also brought shampoo, conditioner, all that good stuff, toiletries. I think it was around Mother's Day. We also brought gifts for the children as well, the ones that was there. And some of them I just sat back and I just, one or two things I did, I listened and I just observed. So I was just peeping the whole situation, and it sat in my heart because I'm like, y'all men get visits from grandma, my girlfriend, side booze, the wife, Auntie Lulu, whoever. Meanwhile, when the mothers are in incarceration, is like pulling teeth to get somebody to come and visit, and if they do, they only visit one time, and so it's a lot. I think Ptpd is different for women versus the men in a way because the women don't have visits. They gotta try to get sugar daddies or whatever the case might be to try to keep themselves going, and it's really sad. But once again, and you got the mothers who don't, the grandmas or whoever don't bring the children, or when the children come home, they're no longer a part of the mother's life. And the same way with the fathers go through that as well. But it's a little different when you birth a child and your child get taken away because you served so many years in jail, and being away from home, and people take your child, so it's a lot. And I have read books on it. I have seen different videos. I have heard different stories. I have not went through it myself as in my own experience, but when I take something in, I take it in as if it's my own. So I want to help as much as I can to whoever. And Toni, for you, Queen, I think it's best for you to link up with maybe a politician who, because that's how I was able to get in. I was able to get in through with a politician called Dale Clear, and then we was able to go into the um, Rikers Island. So maybe if you get with a politician and you want to do something like that, bring these things to their attention, write letters, do whatever it is. If I could get some extra information, I will pass that to you as well. But something got to give, and I hope everybody's journey be a success, because you are in away from home. I'm gonna say that away from home does not make you a bad person. That only say that you had to survive some kind of way out here, and it took you to another place, which was there. And to whoever that found they religion, they God, that's beautiful, because that made you a beautiful whole, a beautiful person coming home. And the healing process starts now. So with that, I also would say peace. Thank y'all for allowing me to be on this panel to listen in.
Peace. We got a caller. We got a caller. Caller, state your name and where you from.
This is Brother Martin,
Brother Mark.
and I like to say peace to all your guests on the show. And my comment is I am grateful and thankful for the passing of the Hawk bill. I worked on that bill with a number of my CTP brothers, Johnny Perez, Ken Wright, and Victor Pate. And so perseverance paid off. And 20 years ago, my organization, Coalition for Parole Restoration, I worked with a number of men and women coming out of the penal system. And one of the things I tell them when I would counsel them is to get a mental health evaluation, because we know a number of men and women, they go into the prison sane, but they don't always come out. The traumatization of solitary confinement is real, and many times the prison system don't adequately prepare them for life on the outside. So the sister on the panel, she has the right idea. We need peers that knows the traumatic experience of being behind those walls and able to make the connection with those brothers and sisters while they are still
Mhm.
there in the prison system. I also want to say to Queen Shanice, I am saddened to hear after all these years that the women are still dealing with the lack of visits. I
Mhm.
visit Albion, Bedford Hills, Taconic, and also Bayview. And I was able, because my work in the community under the Community Reinvestment Act,
Mhm.
more or less forced the hand of Chase Bank to make contributions to the Children's Center at Albion Correctional Facility, because we understood that the parents did not have the wherewithal to
Mhm.
provide for their children.
Right.
The grandparents who were charged with taking care of those children didn't have it. And so
Mm-hmm.
Betty McCain, who looked like you and I, she said, brother, I know your passion for these women. And so I'm going to play quarterback, and I want you to speak to the head of Chase Developmental Corporation and tell them why it is imperative. Use their own words, use the system. And so the system of CRA states that the banks have an obligation and a duty to give back to the community in which they serve. And so the God, Brother Ali spoke about the 7 neighborhoods. And so I was able to cite the fact using my lawyer background because you do not know that I worked for a corporate law firm for many years, one of the largest law firms in New York. But I not have background in criminal law. It was the prisoners' rights division of the founder of my organization who schooled me in parole, and another lawyer by the name of Milton Zellermeyer who took me under his wing and schooled me on the system of parole. And so we forced the hand of Chase Bank, and
Mm-hmm.
Chase gave a truckload of toys to the Children's Center on behalf of the women that were at the Albion Correctional Facility.
Mm.
So, in conclusion, I want to say that yes, I wish Shawanna was still on the line because she mentioned going to Atlanta. Maybe she can connect with Sister Rod, who is doing work in the political field, and maybe connect her with her because I told her about Shawanna a few months ago after she went on Brother Hodges' show, the
Mm-hmm.
Harlem 411 radio show. So
Okay.
we must continue
Mm-hmm.
to make these connections. And my mentor, Mr. Eddie Ellis, told us a long time ago that our responsibility is to inspire the next
That's right.
generation of criminal justice advocates. And so I am grateful for those on the panel, as well as my brother, the God ID, Johnny Perez, and all those who are on the scene today, because my work goes back some 25 years. Thank you.
I
Ooh,
want to say,
peace.
I want to say to you, Uncle Mark Maffei, I want to say to you that you definitely are doing the job that Eddie Ellis has given you to do. You are inspiring the,
Mm-hmm.
you are a connector, and you have
Mm-hmm.
inspired me to be a connector. That's one of the reasons why I try to get as many like minds in the room as I possibly can right now, because I'm trying to follow in your footsteps. And I want you to know that, man. And we definitely celebrate you, man. I definitely want to give you your
That
flowers.
is the mayor.
Yeah, that's a fact. This is the mayor of Harlem right here.
The mayor of
Mark Maffei.
Harlem.
That's right. So salute to you, King. And we definitely
Yes.
will speak to you soon.
So that
Peace.
is that is brother Mark Maffei. I should have asked Mark before he got off. Is it any way that we could still connect with him? The people on the panel could connect with him and still get those, which I'm sure he will, still connect them with the people that he mentioned. Um, brother Mark, let me tell you something. When I said I wanted to do whatever it is, him, brother Reggie, a few others that's out here, they jump on it, and I definitely appreciate them. They inspire me as well. It's always great to hear from him. He always gives some great information. And it's so funny because have some of the stuff we know and some of the stuff we don't know. Like this man will always bring light to a dark situation, and I appreciate him all the time for always tuning in to the Speaking Mind podcast with the Allies.
So we getting ready to close out. So as we close out, we definitely want you to state your name, what you're currently working on, anything that you want people to be involved in, or anything that you just want to give the listeners before we close out for the day. All right, so we'll start out with my brother Joe Williams.
So family, I definitely thank y'all for coming. I want all the listeners to know that wherever you are, whatever it is that you're experiencing, you're not alone in it. We are here for you, and we are those of us, the forerunners, are trying to put things in order to help you in your transition. So let's stay connected, get connected, look out for Life Chess Therapy. I'm here.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Peace, King. Thank you for coming on today. So next up, I definitely want to yield to my sister Toni Dreer. We work together, so we actually putting this work in on a daily basis. A matter of fact, I see you too much. We always on the Zoom together, talking about something or how we gonna work with this person and that person. So I definitely salute you in the efforts that I know you do on a daily basis. So if you have anything, just give it up.
I always appreciate you, beloved, and I met the beautiful queen, so I'm truly honored. I was invited to sit on this panel, and I was really nervous. One of the things that I work on, and Ali can attest, is that I have an organization. It's called Project Give Back, because everybody is not fortunate enough to come into the program of cases. So we take cases to the streets, and we get the message out. Our people are lost. We are lost people, and responsibly, right? This vision came to me in the month of Ramadan. This is going to be the 4th year for Project Give Back. And I was talking to our participants about if you could do anything within the confines, what would you do? And they said, well, we would go and feed someone in the community. It's Ramadan. For me, that's lines right up. That's a cut for me. That's something that I do. It's a part of my 5 pillars. I don't just take food out into the community. I take a message out of the community. I don't see homeless. I don't see broken. I see kings and queens that have lost their way. And it's my responsibility, right, to take it out there and bring them in, because everybody's not qualified for the program. So be on the lookout for Project Give Back and expansion. I'm having T-shirts printed out. And I'm definitely on the scope of working on, because now, right, you stigmatize and labeled me as a criminal. So I'm trying to get back into the facilities, because that's not who you are. And it's like taking a message on who you are. Sometimes people don't know how to get to who they're truly meant to be. So who better to assist you than someone that's been there? So watch out for me. I'm coming. In Islam, I'm Sister Khadijah, and I do live up to that name. Ali will let you know that one.
Luke, I definitely had a chance to actually go out there with Project Give Back, and we gave the sandwiches in the bags, and we was all up in. I'm talking about in the mix, like all up there on Lenox and 125th Street, that little corner right there, and then we walk all the way to Lexington Avenue and 125th. That whole corridor right there. If you've been in Harlem, you know about what's going on in that corridor. And we went through there and gave out sandwiches and food, and a good word, as the sister says. So this is definitely Project Give Back is definitely a good thing. So last but not least, I got my brother Moshe Canty. Talk about your movement, your organization, and anything you want the people to know.
I'm just so thankful, man, that I'm even sitting here with you guys. This is a beautiful opportunity to be able to share, the experiences that we've endured and being able to give back to our community, because we're struggling on so many different levels that I'm just thankful for the opportunity just to be in this space with you guys, because you never know who's listening.
That's
You
true.
never know the impact that we might have on someone's life.
Mhm.
So, since I've been out, I've been making a lot of moves. My first week out, as I stated, I was employed by the Center for Community Alternatives as a youth employment mentor. Within that role, I help provide opportunities for struggling youth from 16 and up, help them find employment, those that have been impacted by the criminal justice system and so on and so forth. So I'm definitely active on a daily basis, fulfilling that obligation. I haven't been um, doing anything in regards to my podcast, but my first week out, I had a podcast called Conscious Moves. You can be heard on Anchor, on on a number on Apple on a number of these other. I forgot the other one that they have out there, but there's so many different platforms that they have about 10 different platforms. I'm like, damn, I didn't even know that they had this. Every time I,
Right.
I get the information, it's a new platform.
Right.
Overcast is another one. So so many different platforms that the podcast is on, and we do what you and your queen do, and queen, we do what you and your king do. We pretty much address the myriad of issues that's plaguing the black community. We try to come up with viable solutions as to how we can overcome our oppressive conditions.
Awesome.
It's called Conscious Moves, as you see, Konk, Chess. This was a play on words. I was sitting in prison, coming up with the conscious of being able to think and outmaneuver. And then the game of chess came into play, and I said every move that we make has to be strategic. It has to be tactical. So we just don't want to make haphazard moves. So this is where the concept of Conscious Mind Ventures came about, and that is again a consulting company. And what we do is we consult. Recently, I was consulting on a project that I was involved in, helping being a part of a steering committee to speak about higher education in prison. Being that I'm a Hudson Link alum, I'm currently taking 5 classes. I'm about to graduate in May, thankfully, with a associate.
Sean
And,
Pika.
and I'm on the grind right now.
Yeah.
Inshallah, by Allah's mercy, that'll happen. And I'm just thankful. So I've been very, very active, trying to stay as active and give my experiences in fields in criminal justice and education, and having that background in the gang subculture. I'm always being called to help mediate there's something always going on in that. So just trying to give back, man, to save as many lives as I possibly can. But again, thank you, Ivy, Sister Shanice, y'all beautiful, man. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for allowing me to share in this space, man. Alhamdulillah.
No problem. Yes. So usually, if it wasn't COVID, we'd be more in a forum, because that's what I like to do. I like to have big panels and
Do it.
everybody get together, and
Do it.
I'm a hugger, and I hug because and I had to tell my husband, like, babe, is it okay? Because at the end of the day, um that's how I am. I embrace my people because I'm not scared of my people. I work in a mental health department with homelessness, and they just come downstairs and just want to talk, and I listen. Once again, I'm Shanice Gatewood Ali. I am right now currently doing a lot of Zooms on meetings and StreamYard, as y'all see, also with my husband and myself. And I have every Tuesday I have this purple round table, which is called Living Behind the Mask or Domestic Violence. The majority of people who are going through DV, they wearing a mask. They claim they happy, they're not. Also, Mother's Day, I will be looking for donations. Anybody who want to give nail polish, brushes, whatever it is, shampoo, whatever. Giving back to a shelter for 48 women. So anybody want to give to that, you could definitely ask them on Cash App, or you could just buy the stuff and make it happen. And also, I wrote a book called I Am Phenomenal, as you see behind me, which is a quote collection of quotes. And I'm a life coach, so some of my life coach words and, you know, get you to start thinking about who you are as a person, woman, man, it doesn't matter. Children 15 and up. My sister and I, we put that together, and I'm working on my second one. I will be working on that really soon. Masters, I'll be going to school soon, back to school, master's program for business, because as y'all know, I do want to open up my own facility. And I'm married to this handsome, light skinned man over there. So do your thing, King.
All right. I would like to say thank you to all of you for coming on and having this podcast with us today. We definitely want to salute Shawanna, Prawn, and Silent Cry for the post-traumatic prison disorder bill. If you see the link or if you hear something about the bill, please sign on with your signature so that we can support this bill and tell your local legislator that we're trying to get this bill passed. Secondly, I want to salute my brother Joe Williams. He's a brother to me. We're fellows, public health fellows. We did, work together. We learned together, and we went outside and had a nice little libation together afterwards. So this is my brother for real, And I definitely want to salute him and the work that he's doing. And he's become a licensed clinical social worker. Those who don't know, it's not many of us in that field, man. When you go into these offices, the licensed clinical social workers oftentimes do not look like us, and they definitely don't look like black males. So we want to salute this brother for passing that licensed clinical social worker test, man, and also with the adversity that we face for him to make this feat. But the next feat is what he's going to do next, right? Which was when he gets that Ptsd, and he's going to be one of the ones circle that's going to get that Ptsd. We're going to definitely promote that. So I definitely want to salute him, and I definitely want to salute Toni Dreer. Project Give Back is the movement. We definitely salute you, sister. We know the work and the heart that you put inside of the work that you do, and we support you at all times in that effort. And my brother Moshe Kanti, I met you, and you became a brother immediately. I know that you're out there to do the work. You're putting your feet to the ground, and we're going to come together, and we're going to make this thing happen. As this thing starts to open up, we got to know and understand that the efforts that we're giving to other people is the efforts that we can utilize for ourselves. Because when it comes time for these organizations that are in here to come into fruition, we already got the working parts.
That's right.
We gotta work together and do it.
That's
right. So
right.
I salute all my people and all the people that was in the chat. 2B Productions and my brother Young Bravo and Uncle Mark Maffee and everybody that just participates and shows us love with this podcast. This podcast is for the community. It's for the community to come on and speak their mind about what's bothering them and what we can do in the community to make it better. So I salute everybody.
B, how does those who are not present, how are we able to give them this information or let them listen to these
share? Just share.
First and foremost,
it's on YouTube.
If you're on my Facebook page, it's streaming live on my Facebook page. Share the video. Secondly, it's streaming also on the I Am Phenomenal Unlimited business page on Facebook. Right? Share the video. Lastly, go to YouTube and subscribe to the Speak Your Mind podcast with the Ali's YouTube channel. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Share the video because this information has to be shared so that other people can get access to it, and we could create a greater following for the information. All right. So I definitely want to say thank you again for everybody that's coming out. Let's go outside and get some of this vitamin D. Stay out there. My queen got her hair done, and we going outside and we gonna walk these Harlem streets.
Family. Oh, I'm bugging. I'm sorry. I didn't start. I was supposed to start with it. Shout out to Brooklyn. I'm bugging. I keep hearing Harlem all over places. You know it's me, right, bro? You know it's me, right?
Yo, I'm looking
at me, right, Mo?
Yo, I'm looking at Joe. I said, hold on, what Joe? I'm like,
nah, it's Jazz, Ja Rukups, Lou Ja.
Yo, I'm looking at Ja. Yo, I'm like, yo, bro, I'm looking. I'm like Joe. I'm like, this name. I told my wife, he named Joe, but he looking like Ja.
Ain't that something?
Wow. Hit me, son.
Yo,
hit me, bro. They've been trying to link us. They've been trying to link us since you got home, Fry.
Yo, that's crazy. I'm looking. I told my wife,
I've been trying to link us. He's been trying to
don't know, but I think somebody I know.
B did it.
So hold up.
You see that?
Let me end the podcast so we can have this conversation offline. All right. So peace to
Facts.
everybody out there. Subscribe to the channel. Peace.
Assalamualaikum.
Podcast.
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salute.